Welcome to This Is Your Mind on AI. My name is Chris Mercer. Everybody calls me Mercer. You are invited to as well. And today's all about limiting beliefs and using AI to help leap past those. I'm going to use a gem that I'm going to show you that you can have. You also have access to this, so you can do everything that I am going to do. First thing I'm going to do is actually show you where all that is. So all you will need to do, we're going to be using Gemini, which you can create with a free account. Just any Gmail account will do that. To get the gem, just go to thisisyourmindonai.com. Currently, just redirects to a Google Doc. We're just going to keep all these public out there, so currently we're doing it there. You can just click on this link. This is the gem link, and it goes directly into your Google Gemini, and now you're sharing it with us. So anything you do is a conversation between you and your Gemini account. You're just using our gem, the instructions that are in it, so you don't have to come up with those on your own. But you can also make a copy of it if you want to see the instructions. Go for it, all yours. Otherwise, if you want to use ours, the exact same gem that I'm using now, that's how you do it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain a little bit about operating this gem as we go through it. And I'm going to describe kind of what's happening. But we're going to do it because I need to solve a problem that I see right now. And whenever we see a problem kind of in life, it is a massive sign that we are overthinking things because you should not see problems. I just don't. It has not been my experience that that's useful. Instead, what we're really looking for is solutions. And AI is a solutions engine. It can produce these experiences that we need, literally give us the experience we need in order to go do the thing that we're trying to do in life, right? And that's what we're going to do today. So I'm going to describe what's kind of going on in my world as it relates to the businesses that I'm working with and currently doing, and what's going on with this channel and that those other domains. So you'll kind of hear that. And then what I'll do is I'll explain kind of how this is going to operate, and I'm going to show you how you should be operating it on your end too, for whatever the thing is that you're kind of going through. I'm going to use it for limiting beliefs right now, specific around money, because that's one that I wanted to kind of focus on, and value exchange, and kind of go through that a little bit. And we'll go from there. And of course, if you have any questions on any of this stuff, just leave a comment, and all that fun stuff, and I'll be able to help you out. You can also post in the community. Just have to subscribe to the channel to do that. All right, so let's go ahead and I'm going to hit the microphone. Make sure I got my things going. Change this. Perfect. All right, check, check, check. Perfect. Just making sure we got it. Okay, here we go. So all I'm going to do is just describe what is currently going on. In my head, I'm not thinking about the problem that I have. I'm not trying to define it as a problem. I'm just going to describe what's happening, right? In that description will, of course, be the problem, but AI is going to help us with that. This particular gem that's what it's designed to do, is to sort of take the problem and then say, okay, well, I think you're basically, from what I can tell, this is what's happening, right? And it's going to restate us the problem back to me, so I can be like, yep, it's pinging, right? It's actually exactly where I'm trying to solve. So let's see what we do. So here's what's currently happening. I'm building a community over at automatedwith.tech. This community is going to be showing people how to use latent experience prompting. It's going to have lessons and courses, and we're building all of that out there now. And the community itself is essentially going to be an automated machine. The humans inside of it are not. We're never going to have AI bots and things like that creating content because that just seems silly. But we're going to have real humans back there interacting. It's just that the rest of the machinery of Automated with Tech will be automated. We'll have sort of the different missions and the different exercises people can go through, and then compare and contrast their experiences that they've gone through with those exercises, and everybody can kind of work together on stuff in their own way, all at the same time, in kind of a weird way. And that's kind of the experience that it's going to have. I already know how to build that. I have that. I understand. I'm already in process of starting that. In fact, I've got live streams coming up this afternoon. I'm going to show parts of that. And I have another thing that as I'm sort of going through where this goes in life, the real reason I'm building this is because I don't want a community or a business that requires me to have to be obligated to running it every single day. And it's not out of laziness that I say that. It's out of, I've done this before where I basically just created a new job for myself. And that's not what I'm trying to do. I had meetings all the time, and there was calendar appointments, and I could never really take a break without just a whole lot of other stuff going on and trying to coordinate. And I really don't want that. I want to maintain a certain amount of flexibility and a certain amount of agency on my end to be able to do whatever I want to do whenever I want to do it most of the time, right? Including stuff like helping people out when I want to help people out, but not necessarily on their schedule. And again, not out of laziness, just I've been in a business like that before. I've built a business like that before, and it just felt more like a trap, more like I had to perform and help people out all the time. And again, it's not in a bad way. That weren't bad people. I did it to myself, and it wasn't something they were intending at all. It was entirely on my end. But I think the reason I was doing that is because of a value exchange issue. And that's really what I'm trying to explore a little bit, because I can imagine at a certain point that I'm going to have an experience where there is money that's coming in, and at a certain point, I want it to be a decent amount of money, which is not there now. I want to be very clear. This is not where I'm at right now. I'm on the opposite end right now. But I want to have this position where there is an abundance amount of money coming in. It's more than I need and then some. So much so that I have the ability to sort of be uncomfortably generous, with nonprofits and charities and that sort of thing. And that's really where I want that to flow, that value to sort of flow. In other words, that much money coming in. However, as I try to experience that, I have like a voice in my head that's like, you didn't earn it, or, well, what are you going to do to deserve that? And that is there. And I know it's not useful. I know it's not useful. I know it's not a proper functioning in my head, because it feels like it's limiting me, because it makes me feel guilty for not working all the time. And again, I don't mean that out of laziness. I mean that out of, it makes me feel like I have to be doing something in order to get something all the time. And if I'm not doing something, then I should not be able to get something. And that feels weird, because I didn't do anything to make the air, and yet I get all the air and the oxygen that I need. I didn't do anything to make the water run through my pipes, and yet I've got water running through my pipes. So I see that pattern in other areas, and I don't even think about it. Yet specifically when it comes to money and this weird little value exchange of what I'm putting out in the world and what I'm willing to receive back, I'm not even sure that even matters. But I'm feels like there's a balance there, or scales or something, where I'm trying to measure stuff to control something that doesn't need to be controlled because I think it's supposed to. And I just don't know what to do with that. And I've had this for a long time. I know friends are like this. I've had certain income levels where I couldn't get past an income level until I just sort of somehow got more comfortable with a higher level of income. But then couldn't get past that. And it's like, I've seen that in sales over and over. Salespeople go through this over and over. When I was a sales manager, I would see this over and over. It's difficult for people to expand past limits that they don't even know that they have. And clearly I have them, or else I would be experiencing the lack of those. And so I'm not exactly sure what to do. I'm definitely stuck spinning in circles a little bit here. I know it's something that needs to be addressed, and I'm trying to think my way out of it. And I know that that's not correct. I know I can't just convince myself to all of a sudden have this new belief. I need to experience something that gives me that ability to believe something new. And that's kind of why I'm here, using this leap here to go through and experience something that helps me to believe that a newer useful belief that really helps me to unlock that piece. Because again, I'm not lazy, but I do want to be able to just take a vacation. Maybe like, is it possible to set up the company where we're working really 3 weeks a month and then 1 week off? I have friends that do that are co-founders, that are husband and wife co-founders of small businesses, and that's what they do. And that seems to be a pretty good deal. And I hadn't thought about stuff like that. And it's like, well, why not? I mean, this is the world of AI. We're in a completely different world of what's possible in terms of business structure and value exchange. And I just think the old rules are gone in terms of hourly rates and all of it. It just doesn't make sense anymore for what the amount of capability that AI gives us, including, hopefully some sort of experience around getting around this limiting belief, if I'm even describing it correctly. So anyway, that's the description of the experience I'm currently going through. I think I've given everything there that's kind of on my side. And at this point, I guess it's, what do you got, and where do we go from here? Okay, So what I'm doing again is I'm just communicating what's going on. I'm sharing details. The way I think about it is it's kind of like a stranger that, let's say you go to the park all the time, a certain park, and you just sort of enjoy this park. And then sometimes there's a person there that's always just at the same time also enjoying the park, whether you both are going for a jog or a walk or hanging out and watching the ducks or whatever the thing is. And then after a while, if you keep doing there, eventually you just sort of nod to each other because you know they expect each other, and you're saying hi to each other. And then you're not necessarily friends or still a stranger, but there's more of a conversation there, right? That's kind of the level that I try to keep AI at. I understand it's all going into this case to Gemini and to Google, but so it's technically the same stranger. But this is why I'm not giving away social security numbers and all the other stuff, right? I'm not going too far down the rabbit hole of the details here. It's more just my experience around those details that I'm describing. So I don't mention money amounts, but I mention sort of the idea of the money, the pattern of the money, and where it goes for me, because that is a thing for me. Maybe you do too, but I definitely have that, where I'll get to a certain point where I'm like, this just feels weird. In fact, I'm going to add one other thing in here. So really quickly, one example of this, as I think through it in my head, would be if I won the lottery today out of nowhere, and let's say I won $1 billion, I would feel overwhelmed, a little guilty, and I would feel like I have to give it away as much as possible to earn the right to keep some of it. That's the pattern that I feel. If there was an avalanche of money coming in that I did literally nothing to do, let's say not even buying the lottery ticket, it was just somebody gave me the lottery ticket. Like it was just, or I just, yeah, it was just somebody that gave it to me, and I don't know, it just feels weird. I'm stuttering just thinking about that particular example. All right, I wanted that in there because I think it's a good pattern to sort of say like, here's what's happening. Um, and then I'm just going to put that in there. So when it's doing it correctly, I'm just going to structure it a little differently. So I'm going to describing it correctly, and then I'm going to put in this little example piece here. All right. So now it's, hey, help them describe it correctly. One example is this. So anyway, that's the description of the experience, blah, blah, blah. Perfect. All right. So now we're going to hit go. So what's going to happen at this point? This is the leap experience. This is what's going to happen. I'm going to blow this up, and then so you can make it easier to read. Um, but I'm going to explain each piece so you understand how to operate it the way that I am operating it. I'm not using AI right now. I am operating AI. What I've just done is essentially I've given it my current available experience. In other words, here's the world as I see it. This is what my brain is kind of doing with stuff and how it thinks about stuff. All of that is just neural pathway patterns, right? That's all that's happening. AI takes all these words that I give it, and it finds all the little patterns in between the words and the probabilities and everything else. It takes my experience and it translates it into fancy word, little vector database map. So it's going to translate that into a bunch of different numbers. At that point, it goes into its database and it's looking for patterns that are similar to its pattern of a bunch of numbers. That's what it's going to do. So it links into that database. Once it does, essentially it's got what they call a neural network, very similar to how our brains work. It's patterned after that. That's how this machine of AI was built. So it's got its digital brain and it's got my brain. So I've got my conscious brain giving it a sort of, explaining what's going on. It goes into that digital brain, which should happen now. This is what this gem is supposed to do. First step is it should ping back with a pattern, bunch of words that basically communicates the pattern that says, gives me the experience of, oh, yes, exactly that. That's the thing that I didn't know how to say as elegantly as you just said it. That's it. That's it. I wish I had said it like that. That's what I'm expecting in this first stage. When that happens, that's just an operator thing. So for me, I need it to be like, here's what I've got going on. I need it to say, here's what I hear you saying you've got going on. And do it in a better way, because when it does it in a better way, it's letting me know it has access to even more data that I didn't tell it, right? But it has that latent experience in its database, that inert data that's sitting there that also got lit up when I put in my stuff. So now it really understands where I'm at, because at that point, what it's going to do is it's going to say, here's how you've been, we're going to walk you through this process. I'm going to help you kind of cross the bridge here. Again, we're crossing a bridge. I don't even know where it goes. I just know it's somewhere over there. And I'm trying to figure out how to do that. That's very difficult to think your way through. But with this, it becomes easy because AI is going to say, okay, I get you, hopefully. That's the first step. And if that doesn't happen, I kind of start over, I adjust the prompt, right? And maybe that happens here. I'm just trying to explain the first step. The second step will then be, okay, we're going to go through and we're going to explain kind of how you've probably been trying to solve this before and why that doesn't work, so you understand kind of what's currently happening probably. Then we're going to talk about a new way to do it with a different type of prompt, and it's going to show us that prompt because it's going to write it on its own. And then it's going to give us an example of, hey, if you actually use this prompt, here's probably where you would be right now. And that's going to be almost like a trial run of an experience, which might solve what I need. But at least it'll be a good dress rehearsal. So that's kind of what we're going to see. So that'll be kind of a fully walking across the bridge moment. First step is I've got to communicate an experience, all the what's going on, and I'm giving it all the data that I have on my side as to what I see. All that data is going into its little LLM brain, and it's going to come back with a bunch of words. The words are not important. It's the experience that I'm having as I'm going through the words that's important. Because what I'm looking for is there going to be a time where I say, oh, yeah, God, I wish I'd said it like that. That's exactly where I'm at. I needed to understand me better than I understand me. Because at that point, I know I can then ask it and say, hey, what are my blind spots? What are the other things, right? I can have a better conversation. So this is the first step to make sure that the human operator and the AI are integrated, right? It's a very first step. Okay, so this is the stuck state. They call it unworth, which makes sense. That's basically what I called it. Internal conflict where your rational understanding of value, in other words, air, water, new AI capabilities, which is true. This is where I was saying we have an overabundance of air, water, new AI. I don't have to do anything. I'm literally using a free AI account. It's amazing what you are. It's amazing, especially when you start really believing and some of you might not be doing that yet. You might think you are. But when you really start knowing what is possible, it is amazing, the abundance that we are in. And it is clashing with this deeply ingrained performance-based emotional ledger, which makes sense. That's exactly what I'm doing. I feel like I'm keeping track of emotions, which is weird, and I don't know why I do that. I'm stuck on trying to solve for deservingness rather than simply accepting abundance, which is exactly right. I feel like I need to do something instead of just not do anything. It feels weird to do this. And I know this stuff feels a little woo. It's probably going to word it like that. I'm not worried about the woo-ness of the words. I'm trying to go with the patterns here, right? So I need to go do something. Instead, I want to do nothing, right? That's kind of what I want to do. So right now, it's in line. You're brilliant enough to automate your business, which I do because I have experience doing that. It's not that I'm believing I'm brilliant. I've never done it before. I've done this stuff before. But the voice in your head keeps demanding that you prove it every day. Which is true, which is very true. So you've done it, and what have you done for me lately? That's what it feels like. Those of you the fans of Eddie Murphy way back in the days of Delirious and Raw, for those old enough, it's like, what have you done for me lately? Like that whole bit. That's what's in my head. It's like, what have you done for me lately, right? Forcing you into a new job rather than a new life, which is exactly right. I never thought about saying it like that, but that's what exactly it is. I feel like I'm keeping the old life and just want a kind of quote unquote better version of it, but maybe that's the thing right there. Wrong. I just need to be a different life. The loop sounds something like, I want agency and rest, but if I stop performing, I must not be worthy of the money that comes in, which means I have to keep working to earn my right to rest. And oh my God, do I have that pattern. This weird little loop, 100%. It just spins me into overwork, where it's like work used to be the number one thing in my head always, because that was the mission, the vision, all that stuff. It was the driving force, and it was this engine that was doing that for sure. Using effort as a moral compass for financial value, which is true. That's exactly right. It's okay that I receive this morally because I put in all this effort, because of all this sacrifice that I did. It's okay. And why do I need the feeling of sacrifice? And that's the one thing that's not in here. It doesn't talk about sacrifice, but that is what it is. It's this moral compass for financial value. And that's the mechanism that I'm using. I don't know that even it's important that sacrifice is the value. It's just the fact this is the functioning of the mechanism right there. And the compass leading me in circles, which it totally is. So at this point, I'm comfortable with this. Because it feels like, yeah, it's where I'm at. It feels the looping. It's said it in a couple of different ways than I have said it before that I think are a little more elegant. And this is what I mean by these states is you go from all of this words, right? All of these words that I had to figure out how to say the thing that I'm trying to say. AI basically takes it to step one and says, oh, you mean this? And I go, yes. All right, that's part one, right? So as long as that's connected, and it is for me, I'm a little more, I'm integrated. I'm like, yep, you get me. Let's move on. So now I'm going to see where it goes. This is the part where it starts to describe what's happening. We call it the magic trick here because this feels like magic, but it's not. This is just science. This is just machines. This is how you work with technology, right? As an AI operator, this is what you would expect to happen. But we're walking everybody through kind of what this process is, including for me as I'm going through it. It's useful to know here's where you are. Here's kind of what might be going on. Here's another way to maybe do it. And here's a possibility if you did do it. All right. So that's kind of what we're going to do here. So from deserving to receiving. So the trick is to feel like I've already kind of moved past it, which is always the trick, by the way. It's always that, right? But it's how, right? The how is the problem. So the logic, the works. All right. So AI's pattern matching, which is true, not a moral judge. So the old rational attempts to think your way out only give the AI the data points of your current logical loops. So in other words, I'm describing the problem, and I only give what if I'm trying to solve the problem with AI, which I have done before in traditional ways, not using latent experience prompting or the LEAP gem, which remember just stands for latent experience automated prompting. It does it for you. It's kind of what this gem is for, which is why we give it out for free. Everybody can use it as much as you want. But instead of that, if I was trying to solve that problem, I only give it my own little perspective and I accidentally constrain it to be able to solve only the type of problems that I could possibly have a capacity to solve with current capabilities. And that's the problem. I need latent experience. I need the AI's database. I basically need to go to AI and say, I don't know what to ask for. Please give me the thing I need. But how does it know that if I can't deliver the context? Well, that's what latent experience prompting does, right? That's what this gem is for. So that's why it's able to do this. So when you describe the experience, the internal monologue, the subtle emotional shift, the physical lightness of being after the breakthrough, you give the AI a high fidelity target state, which is what I should be doing. We're not trying to solve problems. We're trying to get to across the bridge and say, what does it look like when you're in this state? And then how would I get there? Help me experience what that's like as I can kind of traverse the bridge. So then the AI uses its massive training data on human experience, conflict, resolution, reverse engineer the precise moment, insider action, to the best bridges in the gap between the current state and the desired state, which is exactly what we're trying to do, right? So it's going to basically kind of say, here's what's working, here's what we're trying to do, here's what we're going to do, and then here's what that actually looks like if you did it, right? So as we continue the magic trick, this is the first part of that, which is we're transforming now from the old way to the new way. So traditionally, I have absolutely started with conversations like this before with LLMs. I've got a limited belief about money and worth. Write me a list of 10 logical arguments of why I deserve success without constant work, right? Like I'm trying to convince myself why, and I'm just not seeing it. Please give me some opportunities. What's another way for me to look at this? I've done that. Also, give me an exercise to reframe my thing about money as a value exchange. Totally done that. Help me build muscle. Let's use neurolinguistic programming, and let's do psychological triggers. I mean, oh my God. Let's do all the personal development tricks in the world to try to help me to do this. And it's just spinning in circles. It's not doing anything. I'm not getting the experience I have that I require because I still feel that mechanism, which is why I voiced it here, because it's there. If I ignore it, it's never going to be adjusted. And I think it's going to be useful to adjust it, especially with what I think is going to be happening with these companies as this continues. All right, so why it fails. So it's generic, well-meaning, but utterly useless advice. It's going to give you a list of platitudes you already know and have already rejected, which is true. Sometimes because it engages the part of your brain, it's already stuck in the loop. The rational analyzing part, it doesn't touch the emotional ledger that's holding you back, which is also true. It doesn't help me at all. So this is an example. Instead of asking a prompt like this, which I have done in the past, and obviously I'm kind of doing in my own head, it's saying, let's do it something a more latent experience style prompt. And this is not a prompt that anyone would expect you to write from scratch. This is why AI writes them, because it knows how to get access to its own data set. So it knows how to give you the exact prompt that would be useful for it to get you what you need, right? Because it knows. That's why we do that sort of emotional dump in the beginning, right? And say, or not emotional dump, but just that description of what's going on, that current state, so that it can map and then come back with this. So this is what the latent experience prompt it wrote is. Describe a moment exactly 1 year from now where I'm on a beautiful, non-work related vacation, quiet cabin, not a conference, which is important for me. It's so funny that it starts like that because that is literally how I used to take vacations. I'm like, well, as long as it's a business expense, I can take a vacation. So this would be very different for me. I've checked my phone. I've seen a 6-figure monthly deposit from my automated business, automated with .tech, Go AI. I would love to see that. There are 0 unread messages, no urgent matters, and no feeling of guilt, which would be amazing. Oh my God, I have no idea how to get there. But that would be, imagine that. 6 figures just sort of Six-figure monthly deposit, which honestly was not a number I thought. And I don't mean like I don't think big. I thought I was, but it wasn't that big. That's kind of cool though. So why not practice six figures instead of what I was thinking? Um, so I mean, what's the worst case that can happen, right? So why not play? So I'm going to play along. Six figures, sure. Zero unread messages, no under matters, no feeling of guilt. Yes, please, that would be awesome. But again, I'm thinking about how to do that and don't know how. I want you to focus on the sensory and internal experience of this moment, which I'm calling the unearned deposit. That's interesting. So it's just something that showed up. All right, narrate the following. So this is where the AI, again, is sort of from my perspective, is supposed to narrate the immediate physical feeling in my body when I see the number, not panic or obligation, but pure, easy satisfaction. Now, the reason it's doing this, this is specifically important because when it describes the physical experience, I am going to experience the physical experience because as I read it, and if this is a challenge for you and you're using your leaps, this might be something you're accidentally doing. If you just read it like it's a story about somebody else, you're not experiencing it. And if you're not experiencing it, your body physically is not going through the biochemical reactions that are 100% required for the actual experience to happen. You need to experience it. So when I'm going to go through this response, that'll come up here in just a moment, I'm going to experience it because I'm allowing myself to experience it. Not because the AI is in charge of my brain. It's because I'm choosing to not read that like it's a story that somebody wrote about somebody else. I'm going to play along like it's my experience, and I'm going to act as if that is actually happening the best possible way that I can. As I'm doing that, there are going to be different biochemical reactions because it's going to say a physical feeling in my body. It's going to describe something, and I'm going to try to feel that. And as it's doing that, I will more than likely, based on patterns that have happened before in the past using these gems, more than likely, I'm going to start firing off experience. And that's going to feel like an insight. It's going to be these rocket thoughts. It'll be like these shower moments you have in the shower where you're like, oh my God, I get the greatest idea. Or when you finally are, you're looking for your keys forever or your sunglasses or whatever, and you're just like, I forget it. I can't find them anymore. And then you just realize they've been on your head the entire time. It's like one of those moments, these clarity moments. That is the experience lighting up in my brain, connecting the dots. At that point, they're going to feel like insights. That's how people will describe it. I had the most amazing insight the other day, or I thought about this. I had the weirdest thought, and it sort of really connected the dots. That happens because I experience it as I go through. So this part where it's saying it's going to describe the physical feeling body, very important you participate. If you don't participate in the leap part of it, you're not going to feel it. So if those of you that haven't, and you've seen that some people do here, and they put it in the comments, and you can tell. I've also had some people back channel to me, which is awesome. Try to do as much as you can publicly. But when you experience it, you definitely experience it. It's unavoidable. And hopefully you'll see that here. Again, if doesn't mean it will, and that's the point. I'm not 100% certain. I'm not biased to say it just has to happen. I'm just like, I expect it to happen, and we'll see. So that's the first thing, physicalness, right? Second thing, the quiet, effortless internal monologue that plays. What thought has replaced the old, did I earn this voice, right? Which is my problem. Because that happens immediately. Is this right? I feel like I'm in a world of right and wrong around money and value, and it's ridiculous. I know it's not useful, but it's there, and I need AI's help to deal with it because I know this thing can. I know it's somewhere in the database. It can give me that experience where I go, oh, now I know what that's like. Cool. I don't have that anyway. I don't think like that anymore, right? Just automatically. Remember, this is kind of what AI is. It's an automated thinking machine. So instead of me thinking my way through this for years, I can just kind of get to the insights that I would be getting from all that thinking instead. That's why this is so useful. The specific non-work related action that I take immediately after setting my phone down, which is also pretty cool because now it's like, oh, hey, here's this thing that comes in that you don't think about work, which would be cool because I always think about work. And then the single most potent insight, phrase, or memory that made me finally realize that my value is not inherent. That was subconscious. It made me finally realize my value is inherent, not transactional, thereby unlocking a new reality, right? And so many of us have wanted to get into a new world, a new life, a new experience, and haven't been able to figure out how to do it. So we think our way through it, and it doesn't work, and we get stuck. And this is one of the primary uses of AI to be able to help through that. All right, so now this entire thing is actually a prompt that AI wrote for us. So I would be able to copy this, and I could start a brand new conversation with AI. Technically, keep going. I might do that, and sometimes I do. which is why I just copied that in my clipboard here. So I have that. But what I'm going to do now is it says, okay, well, now that you just know the magic trick, instead of asking it like this, we're going to ask it more like this because it's going to work differently because it's going to do something more like this. And now this is the part where we participate. I am participating. You would participate in your leap with whatever the topic is you're going through. But I'm going to go through here and I'm going to try to, as much as I can, get into this story from my perspective because it's written from my perspective as if I did it, right? It's about me, for me. So I'm going to do my best to be inside of it as much as I can. All right. So the phone screen glowed for a moment, illuminating a small patch of the wooden table beside a half-drunk cup of coffee. The number is, that would be awesome, $1,045,980.12 was there, settled and silent next to the word deposit. A year ago, this would have triggered a full body clench, a sudden hot flash of panic about how to justify it, how to reinvest it, or who to thank. 100% right. But today, the feeling was simply warmth. It settled in the hollow of my throat and spread down my chest like a pleasant, slow current. So this is that physical sensation part, right? So today, the feeling was simply warmth. It settled in the hollow of my throat and spread down my chest like a pleasant, slow current. There was no surge of obligation, no immediate impulse to open a spreadsheet. My inner voice was not loud. It wasn't even a declaration. It was a soft, clear whisper that simply observed, of course, that's just what this machine does now. Which is useful for me because I do, um, I can think of like, I have some retirement accounts, not a lot, but I have some in some stocks that I invested in. Well, I don't do anything for those companies, and yet in theory, I can get dividends from the stocks. Now, again, a little bit of money coming in from that. That's not a ton, but that's kind of what that is. It's not even a machine that just sort of delivers money, and I don't feel weird about that. I'm just kind of like, well, that's just how they work. That's how stocks work. So I can relate it now to something that I have in my life that is absolutely a rule that shows this is how it works, and I can just relate that to a machine, which of course automated with .tech is what it's supposed to be. That machine just does that. So the absence of the old demanding voice was the most profound change. I was not a performer who had earned a prize, which is what I have felt like before. I was an architect who had built a functional system, which is exactly what the goal is, and the system was now working perfectly. I had done the work of the build, and now I was simply allowing the work of the flow. All right, I sat the phone face down with a second thought, the notification fade without a second thought. The notification fading in the background humbled my reality. I picked up the old worn copy of Dune I'd been enjoying. Probably not going to be reading Dune, but okay. Again, this is why the words don't matter. It's just I just got back to what I was doing. All right, I picked up the copy of Dune. I now read not to learn, but simply to be entertained, which is also now that is different. Maybe it will be fiction, because all I ever read is nonfiction, because all I care about is learning stuff, not to just be entertained by a book. It's been a really long time since I've done that with a book. I think the last one was Da Vinci Code that I did, which was good. But that was a long time ago. That's when that was popular, before the movie. So that's how long ago that was. So there you go. So, okay, as I turned the page, the sun hitting the lake outside glinted across the lens of a pair of abandoned binoculars. The thought was immediate, fully formed, and utterly final. The only action required for the sun to exist is the sun existing. My system is my sun. The energy is not a reward. It's a consequence of my architecture. And this is unique because up until that consequence word, which is a really useful way for me to experience that. And I literally, because there's a little part of like in the upper back where I'm kind of like, well, yeah, like this is how the machine's supposed to work. It's like dominoes. You set up dominoes, and then you shouldn't be in awe when the dominoes fall down in the way they're supposed to fall down, because that's how dominoes work. It's just how the machinery of a domino falls into the other domino. Same thing with systems and automation. This isn't a reward for me doing a good job, which is what I am always trying to do. God, I am always trying to do that. That might be another leap right there. Is this weird feeling like I have to be a good boy? That is very within me. I feel like that. But to say I'm going to create this machinery, that's just a consequence of the architecture. Like, of course it's going to work like that. That's what it's supposed to do, right? Kind of like you go to a garden and you make a garden and you plant seeds. Well, I don't plant seeds for lettuce and then be surprised when lettuce shows up, right? Of course, that's what it does. It would be weird if it didn't, because that's how gardens work. That's how seeds are supposed to work. I'm the one that's fertilizing and putting the garden container and keeping the pests out and all that stuff, making sure that the seeds have the resources, but the seeds are the seeds, right? They're going to do what they do. So that part's kind of helpful. So now it's giving me that emotional blueprint. Now it's kind of going to summarize stuff and help connect some of the dots that haven't been already. But a lot of this happened here, which is good. When you experience even these examples, you can get a lot from them. So the final experience, connected and wholly. Now possess emotional blueprint, which I do. AI didn't give you a business strategy or logical argument, which is true. It gave me a script for a future internal monologue. It has defined the key emotional shift from an attitude of performance and justification to one of observation and allowance. That's just what the machine does now. Of course, that's what it does. Like, why would it not do that, right? The magic worked by reframing the problem into one language the AI is an expert in, which is narrative emotional resolution. You stopped asking it to prove a point and instead asked it to show you what it feels like to live in a solution. This is what you should be doing with your AI. You should be asking it to show you what it looks like to live in the solution you are trying to get. In my case right now, it's the solution around the limiting beliefs around money, right? But for you, it would be something else. So you stop chasing the ghost of deservingness, which is absolutely what I was chasing. You now have a tangible, visceral target state, which is true. The target state is this. This is the target state. Here's what it's like. I know kind of what it's like. Now, have I experienced it for real? No, but yes, in other areas of life I have. So I have enough experience to know what that's like, just not in that money situation, but now it's related. In my brain, it's different a little bit. All right, so then the magic worked by referring the problem in one language. You stop chasing the ghost. You've now a tangible visceral target state, which I do. You can use to identify and replace the limiting belief every time it services. The new lesson is the architecture of the system. The architecture of the system is the earned value, not the daily maintenance of it, which is good because I can architect the heck out of systems. That is one thing I'm very good at. And knowing that is where the value is probably just a way for me to be like, oh, that's where the value is. I thought the value was in my little human hands pushing the keyboard keys, and that's not the value. The value is the idea of the system and getting that in place. That's where that value is, and so it's okay to be rewarded, quote unquote. There's that language again, rewarded. It's just okay to accept that because that's what the machine was supposed to do. So I like this. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue because I got probably 80%, which is about what I expect from these most of the time. Is like, this is just an example, right, kind of thing. But now I'm actually going to do it for real. So I've already copied this into my clipboard. So I'm just taking this prompt, this prompt right here, and I'm literally going to use it because this is where I'm going to continue a conversation. So I'm going to come in there. I'm just going to go into another Gemini conversation. I'm still using the free version, by the way. So just to show that you don't have to use the paid versions. And I'm just going to paste the prompt in. That's it. So now we've got that. And I'm just going to, it doesn't really matter that you have to do that, but I'm doing it anyway, just so we know the knit site. And then here's the narrate. Okay. So now it's going to go through. What's going to happen is it's going to give me different words. And this sometimes happens in Gemini. It's going to give you a split test. So I'm going to go through them. It's going to give me different words, but it should be the same pattern on both of these. That's what should happen. This is what AI is. It's a pattern recognition. It's passing patterns back and forth. You just think they're words, right? And you think sometimes you're giving words to the AI. It doesn't see words. It just sees the patterns the words are giving that you're giving. So what I'm looking for is the patterns it's saying, the experience that I can use here, not the exact words, which is why hallucinations and all that stuff doesn't matter because that's not what this is for yet. Okay, so let's see how we start out. Sounds like an honest, incredible, well-deserved vision. This is the part where it always says, I got where you are. So, okay, so this is the part where it basically says, you're awesome for being you, right? That's fine. Every AI does this the first paragraph. Skip it because you're awesome and you don't need an AI to tell you that. The unearned deposit. So let's see. This is the date. This is kind of interesting. It's kind of like, and they both did the date. So I'm going to go through. So the air is cool, carrying the scent of pine and damp earth. You're on a veranda, rustic yet elegant cabin tucked deep in the mountains, pushing, perhaps overlooking a fjord or secluded forest lake. The sun is just starting to warm the wooden deck. You're wearing a soft, broken-in clothing, maybe a heavy cotton shirt, comfortable joggers, and you're utterly relaxed. It definitely nailed my sense of style or lack thereof. So that puts me in that. I'm there for that. I get that experience. Again, I'm not thinking about it. I'm experiencing it because I've been in mountainside retreats and lakes and cabins. I have all these different experiences of what the scent of pine and damp earth is. So I'm just playing those in my head as I'm experiencing those, right? Do it again here with this one. The air is crisp, carrying the scent of pine and cool, damp earth. You're settled into an Adirondack chair and wrapped around porch, beautifully simple log cabin, mountains of Colorado, or the quiet lake regions of Maine. The sky is impossibly clear, brilliant blue. The only sounds are gentle, lapping of the lake against the shore and distant call of a loon. All right. The reason I'm going to go with this one automatically, this is just what I'm doing when I do split test stuff, is this one was like, maybe you're in Colorado or maybe you're in Maine, right? Well, how is it going to be vividly real if that's happening? So for me, the pattern's off there a little bit where it's just like, I don't really like that disconnect feeling. So I'm just going to go with this one now. So I'm just going to pay attention to the left-hand side because this is more general, which is this could be in Maine or Colorado. Why point that out, right? Because that's thinking about, is it Colorado? Is it Maine? I don't need to think about that. I just need to experience wherever it is, what's going on, which is what this is doing. So I like this one better. It's the one we're going to vote for. So you pick up the phone, not out of habit or anxiety, but simply to check the time and maybe the weather. You swipe to your banking app purely to satisfy a fleeting curiosity, which is good. It would be nice to have fleeting. The moment you see big giant X's deposit from your automated with tech, a wave of sensation starts not in your chest, but just behind your eyes, a pleasant, gentle softening. Your shoulders, which didn't even realize were tense, drop visibly. There's a deep, slow exhale that feels like letting go of a rope you haven't needed to hold on to for months. That's a cool experience. Feels like letting go of a rope that I haven't needed to hold on to for months. It's a feeling of effortless confirmation, like watching the tide come in. Completely reliable, entirely natural. Your body's response is luxurious calm, like slipping into a warm bath. There is no adrenaline spike, just a serene, profound ease. And I have had those adrenaline spikes when it comes to, especially big deposits coming in. It's like, man, I can feel that. And this is the point of this, is I don't want to. Or I just don't think that's as useful, right? So the body's response is luxurious calm, like slipping into a warm bath. The quiet, effortless internal monologue, the old "did I earn this" voice is completely silent. It's been replaced by a quiet, self-evident truth, of course, is simply the harvest. The work was done a long time ago. Systems operating as designed. I solved a real problem, and the world is benefiting. This is a simple, reliable echo of that decision. That's a cool idea, because that is just dominoes for me. That just put the echo part clicked into the domino example of just dominoes clicking. This is just how it works. Like, of course it would do this. It can't not do this. You built it to do this, so why wouldn't it do this? This is just a sign that it's working. And it has nothing to do with me and my emotional state. It's the machinery of the thing. So the new thought has been fully taken root. This is the default setting. Right. So that, which just became the default. The number is a consequence, not a goal. Exactly. This isn't good or bad. It's just what happens. It's just that. Your energy is no longer consumed by earning, but by being, which is exactly where I want to be. Exactly. Where I don't feel like it's this. I'm just being. The specific non-work action. You place your phone face down on the wooden railing. It doesn't deserve a second thought. The transaction is complete. You reach for the heavy, leather-bound book lying next to you. It's a collection of poetry or perhaps a classic novel. There's our perhaps, which is fine. But I've been reading years. Without glancing at the page number, you find the bookmark, a dried, pressed fern leaf. You pick up exactly where you left off, absorbing the language, the rhythm, and the setting. The act is one of pure, unhurried indulgence in something beautiful and completely unproductive, which would be great, but is a difficult experience for me, to be honest, to experience this. But I get it. For the next hour, the only world you inhabit is one between those pages. The most potent insight, the single most potent insight that unlocked this reality was a realization you didn't come from a business book or a tech conference, but by watching a very old dog sleep. The dog was not worrying about whether or not it had chased enough squirrels that week, or if it had earned its meal. It was simply existing, trusting the world would provide, which I assume with this very old dog, it does. The phrase that crystallized this realization and finally shifted your identity from a doer to a creator, that's a different shift, was, which I thought doer was good, but creator's probably better. My value is not found in my output. It is found in my attention. That's interesting, because I did think this. My value was in my output. I was even thinking of the machine being a way of output. Like, I would create this machine as an output, and that's where the value is. And, at least for the machine, but I was still linking it to that. But I gave attention to that. That's what the value is. I just did it. That's it. The attention was there. That's what had the value. The fact I did it was the value. over and over again. You realize that the highest value work you could ever do was design the machine, and then the highest value action was to give your attention back to your own life, to the beauty, to the learning, the relationships, the deep rest that truly fuels a magnificent existence. The money is simply the world's quiet acknowledgement that your design is brilliant. Well, let's hope so. But I definitely think this is it. So I'm going to do that one. So there's my response. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do one more level up. Now, again, I'm outside of the Leap Gem at this point, but I took the latent experience prompt, and now I'm just doing latent experience prompting. But I want to continue with this. And the way that I do this that I find very helpful is I'm just going to talk through how I experience stuff as I'm going through this, so that it can then ping back with another level of additional, hopefully, experience and insights where I go, okay, okay, all right, I get it. That's what I'm going to try to get done here, because I want to go I'm about probably 95% there. I get where this is going. I have already some stuff that's good, but I want to be on the other side of this. I don't feel like I'm on this other side yet. As I go through this response, I'm going to give you a description of how I'm experiencing it, and you can then let me know kind of what you believe the experience of my experience is, related to your obviously existing and now updated and evolved experience. And from that, you can deliver to me what is the most obviously useful experience, or at least what is highly likely to be the most obviously useful experience for me. This is the description of my experience. As I go through, I understand being able to the mountains and looking at the phone and seeing this massive value come in just from a kind of monthly process, knowing that's just how it's supposed to work. I can feel that. I can feel that can be routine. I can feel that could be based on me just going, this is how the machine works. It's just what's there. It doesn't have that same emotional pizzazz or attachment as quote unquote money used to have. It's just there. And I don't mean to be not in a derogatory way. It just doesn't have that same energy for whatever reason. I don't know how to explain that, but it's just there, and it's a sign, kind of like just a measurement of operating correctly. Like this is just, or usefully, not correctly, but usefully. It's clearly useful, or I wouldn't be having this. It's like the money is now a measure of how useful things are that I have made, not necessarily the amount of useful, like that or the output, I guess, that I'm currently doing. So that's how I'm kind of experiencing that so far. The internal monologue around that harvest, again, I think about a garden to some extent. So I guess that makes sense, where it's like, it's not my job to plant this, or it's not my job to have the seed grow. That happens on its own, but it's my job to give attention to the garden and to prep the dirt and the soil for the seed and make sure I take care of the seed and be a good steward of the seed as best I can. But the seed's going to be a seed. The growth is going to grow, and the fruit's going to come from the trees or the vegetables or the whatever I'm growing. But that's going to happen automatically because I gave my attention to it. And I don't think that's directly, I think that's kind of still connected to output a little bit. So I don't know if that entirely works. Because it does feel like I still have to put effort in, like I still have to plant the seeds. But I guess if you consider that, every fruit tree could just be an entire orchard if you let all the fruit grow and whatever. So I guess it would kind of propagate on its own, even though I only planted one single seed. So I guess that's a way I could think about that. In terms of the specific non-work action, as I go through it, I'm experiencing this. I get the idea of going back into this unhurried indulgence of something beautiful and completely unproductive. It feels a little bit lazy, and I know that's not what the intent is, and I'm not sure why that's there. But I do experience a little bit of resistance to that because it just feels like, oh, you should be able to do something else. Why not do another machine that can also do that amount of monthly income? And then we could create a nonprofit that is now funded by the monthly income that can now do this other stuff. And already my brain is now back into the output mode at this point. And I'm not sure why that is, but I don't have that complete experience. I'm missing something of an insight or some sort of other experience that I need added to my current experience level. So I have the experience of what this actually is on the other side. Because I think I'm close, but I'm not there. On the potent insight around watching the dog sleep, I think that makes sense. Because I have pets and this is how cats work too, for the most part. And I like the saying of my value is not found in my output, it is found in my attention. I'm just not entire, and I believe that. in theory. Like, I believe that intellectually, I guess. I just don't know if I have that emotional sort of connection to that yet, where it's internalized on that subconscious level, to really focus like, hey, my attention where I put stuff is where the value is. And because I put my attention on something for 5 minutes, that might be millions of dollars of value later. I guess like that's kind of how the lottery works, right? Where it could be like you put your attention on a lottery ticket and some people make billions of dollars, right? Or at least hundreds of millions, whatever. Not to say that that's what the business is, but that same concept. Again, I think I'm a little too much in my head, maybe at that point thinking it through and still kind of like I have to do something to get something, like dominoes that are connected together that I have to mechanically turn the machine to get it to do something. So with that, that is my experience and how I'm describing my experience. So go through experience, evolve your experience, add it together, and of course return back what is highly likely to be the most obviously useful experience for me to experience as experience. Okay, so this part is just the very end. This is latent experience prompting, where I'm basically going through and saying, I've given you a bunch of context that I don't even know that I gave you. Go find it, light everything up in your end, and then come back with the thing that you know that I need to hear that I don't know how to ask for. That's all I'm doing here. And every one of you that has been trying to do this, because I've talked to a bunch that are trying to solve problems by saying, hey, I need a solution, but I don't know what the solution is. Please tell me the solution. Well, you're never going to get it from AI doing that, because you don't know the solution, so you won't recognize the solution. You're just going to recognize things that might eventually lead to a solution, but it'd be just lesser versions of a problem. What I want is AI to come back to me and be like, here's the thing you didn't know you should have asked for, bam. And I go, oh my God, yes, thank you so much, right? Because it knows me better than myself, because I'm patterning in my experiences so that it can add it to whatever its experience that it has access to, which is all of human knowledge and experience, find those patterns and then fire back to me. Well, hey, based on what I see the world operating and how humans operate and everything else that goes on in the brain and everything else that I will never know that it accessed, here's an experience. So that's what we're going to hopefully see in this next level up as I go through. So we'll keep that in. Again, still using just the regular free versions here. All right, this is the part where it tells you you're awesome. So just get over that stuff. Full experience and perceive as this. So this is as the AI is going through now. Your evolved experience productivity reflects. The money is measurement. You've successfully demoted the money from an emotional goal to a metric of usefulness, which is true. Highly evolved and accurate perspective. Useful, that's good to know. So I just got to keep this, it's how useful things are. This is why it lacks the pizzazz. It's now a dashboard reading, not a prize. You've neutralized the emotional charge of income itself. To some extent, I believe that's true. It's not to say forever, but yes, right now, this moment, it does feel like that. The garden analogy. You grasp the concept of the initial act of attention, planting the seed or designing the system, but the reflex still connects the reward to the planning, which is true. You're still valuing the effort of the first domino, planting the seed, and I feel uneasy accepting the endless fruits that follow without further immediate effort, which is true. That is where I'm at. So this is the part where it's kind of connecting. I'm giving it a pattern. It's pinging back with a pattern, saying this is what I think you're saying, and it is exactly what I'm saying, just a better version of it. So I'm like, yep, it's in the right area. So I believe it's continuing to be useful, right? My experience with this. The resistance to indulgence is the critical friction point. The moment your brain smells unproductive, the productivity reflex. That's funny. The brain smells unproductive, which is kind of, man, it's like that. It's like I just sense that I'm. And how many times have you heard me on this thing saying, oh, it's not about being lazy? That's that. Saying, why not be lazy and make a bunch of money? It's okay. Others do it and seem to have no problem. But it feels weird to be able to do it like that. And that's just not my style. Maybe that's not the words I'm going to hear that in. It's going to be same pattern, but different words that I'm going to use probably. So the moment my brain smells unproductive, the productivity reflex kicks in. Lazy. Convert this unused time and capital into the next machine. Now fund a nonprofit. Yes, let's do that. Your brain is desperately trying to reestablish a link between current effort and future reward because that link is its safety blanket, which is true. All right, so the insight. You intellectually accept value is in the attention, not the output. I do intellectually accept that, but you lack the emotional evidence to make it feel safe, which is true. I don't have the experience that says that is absolutely certainly true. I see how that makes sense. That's what I feel like, but but it hasn't made sense. I just see how it could. You're searching for the action, the domino push, that must precede the reward, even if it's just a thought or a small mechanical step. There's something I have that says I have to earn this. That's very true. Okay, so this is the most, now at that point, the AI is basically pinged back and said pattern, right? I will not continue if this was not useful, but this is extremely useful. So I'm like, yep, this is correct. I'm going to continue. Now it should walk me through a different experience so that I can get that missing data that I need, right? The missing experience that it has in its database now comes through as words. But again, I'm going to go through and do my best to experience the words as I am experiencing them. It's important. You have to participate. You hear me all the time on this channel. You got to participate. You have to do this. You can't just read it as a story and expect it's going to work. You have to participate as an experience that it is, so you get the actual experience. You need those biomechanical patterns in your body. They are useful data points for your brain. It must have that. All right, so the missing piece is not different actions, profound felt experience of non-intervention. It's the realization that adding more effort is often the most destructive thing you can do, which I have totally done before by digging into something and making it worse to do a successful automated system, which is true. So, okay, core insight to internalize. My highest paid work is to allow, which is funny because allow feels like effort to me a little bit. So if I said my highest paid work is to deliver effort, and I just flip that to allow, it feels the same, but that word is very different feeling. It kind of gives me that, it hits my little effort button where I was trying to use effort, which was incorrect, but allow, which it is that. It does feel like I'm, in a weird way, like I'm earning it just because I'm allowing it, because it takes effort for me. I do not need to turn the wheel. I just need to trust that the wheel I built is perfectly balanced in emotion, right? So it's like to just trust that this is how it's supposed to be, but to allow this to happen. And that's going to be a practice, I think, for me, because hopefully at higher and higher levels, we'll see, but that is something I'll need to practice. The highly likely most useful experience, the feeling of holding the void. All right, so now we're back into the setup. This is the experience now where it's writing from my perspective of what's going on. So on that veranda, after setting the phone down and before picking up the book, you need an internal experience that directly addresses and disarms the productivity reflex, because that's what was happening. As I was experiencing it, you see how I kind of short-circuited, and I was going through it and being like, well, here's what I'm thinking now. And it was like, here's where we lost, so I'm going to add something to that experience. So here's the setup. You're on the quiet veranda. You've seen the deposit. The phone is face down. The reflex to start designing the next machine flares up, which is certainly going to happen. This is practicing now. It's helping me to trigger this so it can help me to build a path where that doesn't happen anymore. That's probably what's happening. So the reflex to start designing the next machine flares up. It's a little anxious spike of energy in your chest and a rushing of thoughts. Exactly what it feels like. It feels like a bunch of stuff up here where I'm like, let's just go do this. And I want to just jump. That's what it feels like. And anxious is 100% right. It feels like a powerful feeling, but it's not. It feels like it's motivating, but it's not. It's just anxiousness. So that's useful as an experience, because I'm realizing it's more of a negative association in my brain, right? I'm going, that's not useful. That's not, and my brain's starting to just disconnect things that aren't useful anymore. So the action, instead of resisting this energy, you gently bring your attention to it. You look out on the lake and the trees, and you consciously refuse to move, think, or plan. You hold yourself still in the physical world. So now I'm consciously refusing. So I'm aware of it, and now this is where the practice comes in. So now I'm aware that this is happening, and I'm just refusing to move, think, or plan, just staying still. For 30 seconds, you experience a void of productivity. This feels intensely uncomfortable, almost like the anxiety of forgetting something crucial. You are forcing your mind to stay in the gap between the stimulus, the money, and the old response, the new task. This is what, when I'm talking to you about operating tech, specifically operating AI, things like operating YouTube, or I'm like, don't comment because you want more stuff from this channel. Don't like this video because you want more content from me. That is a poor reason. It will happen, but it is not why you should do that. You should like something, comment, subscribe, all that stuff when the channel is useful truly for you, useful experience. And it is so useful as an experience, you want others like you to have this experience as well. Almost like it's a giving thing. Hey, I'm giving this experience to you. This is how tech works. It's how every algorithm works. All of them, Facebook included. So when you are reacting to something with a negative thing, telling Facebook, I don't want to see this anymore, you think you're doing something useful, which you are for you, because you probably won't see anything like that anymore. But you will see other things like that will surely get that reaction, because you and everybody else is also doing that. And all that's telling the algorithm is, please send this experience, which by the way sucked, which is why you don't want it. but you send that experience to everybody like you because you just told the algorithm, I found this useful in some way because you reacted. So instead of reacting negative, you just ignore. And when you start doing that, you will find the algorithm stops showing you stuff, and it's also not showing anybody else stuff, because if you're ignoring it, other people will also not see it, so it gets ignored. And then stuff that's just not useful goes away. And the chatter and all the stuff that everyone, it just goes away. And then useful content just starts showing, and you actually have a completely different experience of the world. This is what that requires a gap between the reaction and you consciously going, okay, why am I about to leave a comment? Not, oh, I want to participate. It's like, no, I'm leaving a comment because I'm giving the algorithm a signal that says this channel is useful and people like me are commenting. So really show it to people like me versus somebody who just likes it with a little bit of participation, right? But it'll still do that. But there's a gap. You have to be aware of that. And I'm very, I think, more aware of that with technology than probably the average bear because I've been practicing that. That same mechanism that I have for that is what this is telling me. It's like I was reacting to money coming in, to income coming in. I'm reacting to it. It must mean something without even giving it the gap of a question of what does this mean, right? And that's the thing with tech. I'm asking people to like, don't subscribe to this channel unless you mean it. Here's what you mean by mean it. You're literally doing it to trigger the algorithm by saying, I like this. I'm subscribing to this channel because it's useful and other people should have a useful experience. And that's why I'm voting with my subscribe, my share, my like, my comment, whatever, to do this with tech. That's how the algorithms work. They don't care if it's good or bad signal at all. They do internally for your own personal preferences, but that algorithm just cares that it's a useful thing. So it puts it to other people like you. And that's what spreads things, right? Especially the more negative stuff. That's why it goes viral easier because everyone's reacting. Just not react and it stays away. And that takes a gap. You have to stop reacting and you have to realize you are reacting and you have to think about it. And that's exactly the pattern that I need to have, which is so cool because I love that. Whenever I'm like, and I've found this to always be the case. Whenever I'm like, oh, like here's a great way you should run your life. It's always like, whenever that's happening, like, oh, you should run tech like this. It's always like, well, yeah, but you should listen to yourself, man, because you're preaching to yourself. Like, there's something that you need to hear in this message, and this is it for me around that. That's my thing wasn't with tech. I've never really gotten into the social media thing. I understand tech in a different way, naturally, but the money stuff didn't, and that's exact. Some other people are great with that, just they don't have that issue. Maybe I hope that's you, but I have, and I think this is so useful for me right now because it's linking everything that I believe around tech, and I'm going, oh, money's just a different form of tech. Now, that's what's happening in my head. I know that might sound weird and you don't have to believe that. It's just how my brain's doing it. I'm like, oh, money's just a different form of, it's a value network of technical exchange, data moving back and forth, of showing levels of usefulness. This is all this is. What are you doing putting in all this other thought around how a machine works? My God. Like, I'm not putting in all this effort around how tech works. It's just, if it's useful, I'm going to subscribe. If it's not, I'm not. And it's a little simpler for me to not have to, it's weird because I'm trying to think through this and there's nothing to think through. It's just not there. And I'm not saying that that's gone forever and this is like an instant thing. It's just dramatically different with this experience. This was useful. This was what I needed because this was the piece that was missing the other one, which is why I continued to do the kind of the extended leap here. The breakthrough is you hold the void, two insights hit with a quiet, undeniable clarity. The system's vulnerability, you suddenly realize that the only thing that could actually stop the monthly deposit is my own unnecessary intervention, especially because I'm going to build a system to run, it'll just crank. By trying to squeeze out a few more percentage points of growth or by distracting yourself with a new machine, you risk breaking the exquisite balance of the current machine. I have done that too many times. So not only would I do that, I have done that a bunch. So I know I would do that. And I don't feel like I would as much anymore, at least dramatically down. Again, can't say forever, just, but what are we, a few minutes of an experience here, you can dramatically change a life just because of the different perspectives that I leave with. And I operate differently in the world because I have different perspectives. The most productive thing you can do is protect the machine from its creator's anxiety, which is awesome. It's so true. God, I just need to protect it from me. The power of stillness. In the absence of an immediate goal, your mind, freed from output pressure, suddenly connects two seemingly unrelated concepts from your past work, leading to a simple, elegant improvement you can note down later. One single sentence of pure, high leverage insight that will take 5 minutes to implement next week. You realize this is the true nature of your high value attention. It only surfaces in the space of non-effort. So I totally get this because that's kind of what's happening is I'm able to get a lot of stuff done and there's a bit of like there was a bit of weirdness around that it should take me longer. Um, but these high level insights again, few minutes to take, which is funny. It just said that because I just mentioned it. But anyway, few minutes to do an insight can change a ton of stuff. The feeling that washes over you is not lazy indulgence, profound gratitude for the lack of obligation. It's not unproductive. It's high leverage, focused rest that protects and nourishes the engine of your wealth. And this is so important. I have found, especially working with AI, because you can make pretty decent leaps much faster, you can rest more. And that's more useful because then your brain's got more resources. So you're more in your body, experiencing these different things. So you just start to expand a little bit more naturally, which is cool. And one thing that I think my effort engine, because I do feel like that effort's useful, just been misapplied. And in my life, where I have to have money, effort and money is hooked, but instead maybe it's effort with rest. Like I have to put some effort into resting and being okay with that and being unproductive. And that's where my practice is going to be. And that stillness of it's okay to be still and not do much. That's okay. Just accept stuff happening. And that's what I need to do. I need to accept stuff is happening around me because that's the only way that this works. I know that for a fact, which is why I'm even bringing this thing up as a leap on this talk. So the shift is your attention is not a seed planter. Your attention is the chief architect. The chief architect's job is not to lay the bricks, but to ensure the existing foundation remains sound and to wait for the next elegant design idea to arrive spontaneously. The value is not in the work you do, but in the work you choose not to disrupt. Which is very true. So just try not to mess up the garden. All right, I got what I need out of this. So that was, for me, that was incredibly useful. That's what I needed. I needed to shift from this thinking about money too much, getting caught up in it, trying to figure out good person, good thoughts, bad thoughts, good emotions, bad emotions, listening to all the books, personal development books in my head, Think and Grow Rich, and like all the stuff that we've all gone through, especially in the personal development world, that just ties me in a knot. At this point, it's just not particularly useful. I'm just not getting the message behind the message behind the message, and it feels like it was very cryptic and not accessible to me, and now it is. And it's just because I'm doing it in other areas of life where I do feel like that. I don't think like it, and I needed it to be modeled for me as an experience with money specifically, and that was what just happened with the AI. Wrote these stories specifically again because it was prompted to. It was not accidental. I operated it specifically to do that in this format so I could experience it in my body, biochemical reactions firing in different things to get a different experience, to shift a perspective, right? That's what it's for. And that worked really well for me. So anyway, I hope you found some usefulness out of this. I will continue to do these live streams as I need to leap through things. I'm also going to be creating a ton of cool gems. And I have a really good one. They're all going to be built in automated with .tech, by the way. So if you want to join that community, you can. It's totally free. So automated with .tech, just go to that URL, automated with .tech, and it'll take you there. But it's going to be for the builders. So it's if you really want to understand latent experience prompting and really start using AI at a whole new level, and you want to do it a little more manually because you just want to operate the machine that way and learn how to be the operator at that level, that's what that's going to be. That said, I'm going to be building a lot of gems for this channel because most of you are not going to want to do that. And you're going to want to use the gems, and you're going to want gems for the recipes so you can experience what it's like to be a really good baker before you're a baker at all, and actually, bake pretzels like I did, which, by the way, turned out really, really well. 3 different flavors. It was really cool. But I will create some other ones that are going to be training. So I'm going to help you kind of create gems that are going to link together because I think that's going to be super cool to show you. Actually, just to experience that. I'm not going to show you how to do that. That's automated with .tech. That's where I'm building all that to show you how I'm doing this. But out front here on this channel, we're going to start to see little gems pop up that you can actually start to use and interact with. And then when you sort of graduate to a certain level of, okay, yeah, I got this now, then you can move on to the next gem, and it'll help you sort of build some skills around latent experience prompting, using gems, using Gemini, And we can do, like, a little more choose your own adventure when it comes to this. And hopefully people can leave comments as to how the gems are working. And I'll create live streams to show you how to do each one, so you can have that. So I think that'll be kind of fun. That said, if you have any challenges you're working through, pop them in the community. It's a great place. Pop them into the comments. A great place as well. I'm looking at those. You'll see we have conversations going back all the time with people that are there. If you want to back channel to me, those of you who know where I'm at, Telegram, WhatsApp, Gmail, which is thisisyourmindonai@gmail.com is the best one for that. And anywhere else you happen to know me. But ideally, in the community here on YouTube is better, because then everybody else sees that that's happening. Because I still have a lot of back channels, because a lot of you are personally connected to me, which is awesome. But the more that we have in YouTube, the more that algorithm is being pinged. And if it's really useful, please do that, because we're telling the algorithm, hey, this is useful. More people like me need to see it. And it gives another swing for a live stream to hit somebody. And I know I'm going uphill right now with these giant long live streams for people, but that's because that's just because that's supposed to be right now. There will be some other things where it's going to be a little more front end oriented, and that's where the subscriber count should go up when those gems come out. But that will be for another stream. All right. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate time, effort, energy as always. Thanks for being here for This Is Your Mind on AI, going through another leap. And just as a reminder, you can go to thisisyourmindonai.com. That's where you're going to find the leap. Click on it. Takes you right to Gemini. Just use the free account. And hopefully you'll have a useful leap as well. Let me know in the comments, and we will talk to you soon. Take care.